Hello everyone, it is like 11. I haven't eaten breakfast, but I will be filming this video. This is gonna be a wrap up of all the books that I read in winter 2021. I'm not gonna do monthly wrap-ups anymore because I don't post consistently enough to like put wrap-ups up, because then it's literally just gonna be wrap up after wrap up after wrap up, and you know, I'm not all about that lifestyle. I'm more of a vlogger. This is a vlog channel now, but this is gonna be a wrap up of all the books that I read from February and March, because I already did a wrap up of January, but from now on it's going to be increments of 3 months because I'm smart. And instead of calling it a wrap up, I'm going to call it highs and lows, because you know, like some of them are like really good, some of them are really bad. You know, I will start off with the lows and work my way up to the highs, because you know, let's save the best for last. So the first book that I really hated in February and March was The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. I gave this book a 1 star, and I also shelved it books that deserve 0 stars. I know that seems mean, but like I hate enemies to lovers, and this just like reaffirmed how much I hate enemies to lovers, because the romance made absolutely 0 sense. I have so much issue how their relationship goes from like staring at each other, like sort of sexually harassing one another, to like her being freaking like obsessed with him, like falling all over him, for like him showing just basic human decency. Why are we praising this man when he literally is like, he drags your confidence? It made no sense to me. That was just a no-go for me. Another book that I hated was Never Let Me Go. I gave this one a 2 stars. It's a really slow book, and I realized that I'm not really into slow books. I like fast-paced books. I found myself wanting to DNF it a lot. You start seeing where the book's going, and you're like, oh, okay, like I understand it. I understand what you're trying to do. It's just not for me. Although I do want to watch the movie because Keira Knightley's in it, and God's gift to mankind. And then another book that I rated 1 star, we're going back down, was In a Holidays by Christina Lauren. It was good, and then it just wasn't. It's basically about this girl who is stuck in a time loop where she's spending vacation with her family, and every time she like messes up, she basically restarts the time loop. But she made major mistakes in like the last time loop, but we never like restarted. It would have been more fun if like we had more time loops, because I only did 3. Like that's an issue. Like if your whole entire plot is going to be like Groundhog Day type stuff, like at least make the time loops more prominent. And that was a little lacking for me. The romance was just very bland. It's sort of told from the girl's perspective. I don't even remember her name, but like she is just so bland, and she acted like a freaking 12-year-old for literally the whole entire book. Oh my god, she annoyed me. Another romance novel that like focuses on a really immature character is You Deserve Each Other. I buddy read this one, and we all sort of collectively hated on it. It's just like enemies to lovers just is not our thing. It's better than The Hating Game because the last couple of chapters are really rewarding, but like sometimes it got way too cheesy, and other times they throw in like conflict in the sort of last third. They like have some conflict, but then it's just like miscommunication. It was just really unnecessary, and it sort of like spoiled the joy I got from like them taking down this tyrannical mother-in-law. Like, no, don't do that. I also didn't like the relationship here. I know that the whole entire thing is like second chance romance, blah, blah, blah. Like they're fiancés, but they hate each other, and then they end up falling back in love. This girl, one, quantifies how much she's loving her fiancé. I think his name is Nick, and her name's Naomi. Yeah, but like she quantifies how much she loves him. She keeps a record of all the things that like piss her off about him and what he does. We only get it from her perspective, so she's constantly making it out that he's sexist, he doesn't help her, he's like neglecting her and all that stuff. And then all of a sudden it goes from Nick saying, oh, I hate you, I sort of regret proposing to you, to like buying her a freaking house. Tell me how that works. I don't understand it. Maybe if I got some insight into what he's thinking, I would be like, oh, okay, he's still invested in this relationship, even though she's sort of pulling away. But we didn't get that. We only saw it from her perspective, and she's like, oh, he hates me, I hate him, this isn't gonna work out, I just need a way to get out of this relationship pronto, which obviously is not what I want in the first 4/5 of a book. It doesn't belong on the books that deserve 0 stars because of that singular takedown. That takedown was so rewarding. At least I got that moment of satisfaction. The Water Cure, I gave 2 stars. Overall, not it. This one, it's supposed to be like feminist dystopia. Everybody is toxic. They're still technically under a patriarchal rule because they like still obey like the king, which is their father, and they're abused and they never have any means to rebel or fight back. They're not dismantling the patriarchy. It's sort of misandry because they're like, oh, men are literally toxic. Let's like not interact with them at all. We'll only be safe with women. That was a little sketch. I read that for the Tinkerbell readathon. A lot of things that I read for the Tinkerbell readathon were sort of weird. Now moving on to the meh books that I rated 3 stars. We have Like Water for Chocolate by Laura Esquivel. This was a book that I read for school. It's magical realism. It's like set in Mexico during a Revolutionary War, and we just get like a tyrannical mom abusing her children. And so this girl, damn, I really need to remember people's names. I know Mama Elena, Rosara, Gertrudis, Tita. Oh my gosh. Okay, her name is Tita. She's basically not allowed to marry the person that she loves because she's the youngest daughter, and by tradition she's supposed to take care of the mom until they die. I was rooting for Tita. I was like, yes, overthrow your tyrannical mom, break tradition, go after the person you love. But then the person that she loved, like her first love interest, was boo. It's just all lust. And I'm like, no, go for that emotional connection you have with like that old man. But she chooses her first love interest instead of like the second love interest, who I'm personally rooting for. And I was like, Tita, you have disappointed me. I am angry at you. And so I gave it 3 stars. Yeah. And then I read 19 Minutes. This was a recommendation by my Spanish teacher. This one was Jodi Picoult, very formulaic. It sort of felt the same as when I was reading A Spark of Light, which is by Jodi Picoult. That's the first Jodi Picoult book that I read. I've read this and a couple of other books in like one of my vlogs. So I'll try and link it. Honestly, this was not a vibe. It was good, but it wasn't like great, so that's why it's 3 stars. Another book that I didn't really like, this is another one that I read for a readathon, was Brigida and of the White Forest by Danica Dinsmore. I have her signed copies because she came to my elementary school when I was a kid. It was just sort of a book that I got through. I just didn't feel anything. Also, Brigida, like, I understand it's middle grade and she's still a kid, but like, she's so whiny. Like, what the hell? What is going on here? I find really immature characters a little annoying and they like tick me off. So like, no, maybe not. Then after that, we have Dark Days. I read this for a readathon on Instagram, the Strawathon. This is, I think, the 3rd or 4th book in the Skullduggery Pleasant series. It's the 4th book in the Skullduggery Pleasant series. I give this one a 3. All the other like previous books were like better than this one, at least in my opinion. It fell a little flat for me. The conflict, there's so many villains that I need to keep track of. Also, we didn't get the same amount of banter because Skullduggery was stuck in like a different realm or something. Because of that, like, we had a decent chunk of the book where Skullduggery and Valkyrie weren't interacting, and we didn't get like all that snarky, sarcastic, witty dialogue that I really enjoy. That's like sort of what I come and read the books for. It's not really for all the gore and like the monsters and everything. This one was just, it felt a little lacking. The Gilded Ones was the Tinkerbell readathon group book, and there was a live show for it that I sort of like popped in, but I had only read 8 chapters, so I was a little behind. I'll be honest, but I gave this one 3 stars. The Gilded One started off really strong. It was supposed to be YA fantasy with like Decca, who has blood of like these demons and whatever, and she, instead of like being killed, she like joins the army to fight off like these monsters who attack her like country and everything. She's supposed to be serving. The last like what 30 or 40 pages just felt so out of place. Like, ma'am, if you're gonna have so much gore for like the first half of your book, like, please don't water it down. No, like, if you're gonna commit to being like gory and gruesome and have like people bleeding all over the goddamn place, commit. Then after that, final book that I think I have in here is We Set the Dark on Fire by Taylor K. Mejia. Daniela is the Primera and Carmen's the Segunda, which is like the wife system. I liked it, but I didn't love it. That's the thing. This is my first book that I read that like had a sapphic romance, like that I actually finished, because the first time I tried to read a sapphic romance, I hated it because it was enemies to lovers. But this one was also sort of enemies to lovers because they're like rivals in the school, but then they like open up to one another and like they get to know one another. And I found that to be cute. I just wish they had like more time to interact with one another before they like start opening up and caring for one another, because like they literally dragged each other to filth. They like were mean to each other, but like not horribly mean. They were just sort of a little condescending, really snarky, but I just wanted more development in their relationship. I like how like the two wives and they're like sort of cheating on their husband by like being in love together. I liked the book, but I felt like there could have been more from it. There could have been more from the relationship. There could have been more from like literally her spying abilities. She's just there. Maybe if I got more kick-ass scenes where she like actually did stuff, that would have been more fun. But I know the second book in the series, or duology, is going to be told from Carmen's perspective and not Daniela. There's layers to Carmen that we have not figured out yet, and I want to know more. So I will be reading the rest of the series. And now we have finally reached the good section. First up, we have Cress. This was 4 stars. Loved it. I really like Cress. Cress is like really innocent. I do not like her relationship with Captain Thorn, because Cress is 16 and Captain Thorn's in like his early 20s, and I'm like, that's a little sketch. That's a little sus. But other than that, she's a really great character, a great addition to like the team that we get in setting up for the Lunar Chronicles and Cinder and her gang and everything. Love her. Basically the rest of the books and the accompanying stuff in the Lunar Chronicles, so like Ferris, Winter, Stars Above, all of those got 4 stars. They were all really great, really fun, and enjoyable to read. Personally, I really love the Lunar Chronicles universe, and it's also a throwback to middle school, so that might be why I'm a little biased towards Lunar Chronicles. After that, we have The Faceless Ones by Derek Landy. This is the 3rd book in the Skull Diary Pleasant series. I enjoyed this one more than the 4th book because we get all that banter, and like the cliffhanger is so good. And then we also have Ties That Tether by Janie Garo. This one was a contemporary romance between a Nigerian woman and a Spanish dude. They had a one-night stand, but then they also like find out that they work together, and it's like an unexpected pregnancy thing too. So all of it is really great. I really liked how the immigration experience is sort of like demonstrated in like assimilation, cultural identity, what you have to sacrifice in order to survive. I liked the book a lot. It sort of took me out of my adult romance slump. If you're looking for a quick fun read, that's something you can read. And finally, I also have a love story. I've already talked about this in my AAPI author recommendations, and I also read this for the Tinkerbell Readathon. This was a great way to start it off. It took me like a week, so that's probably why I also failed the readathon. But it was so much fun. Like, you just need to like sit there and savor it and like enjoy how wholesome everybody is and all the food and everything. Wonderful. I love the book so much. Everybody is so wholesome. I felt so seen. And I'll give an honorable shout out to Fairy Tale, all 65 volumes. I think there's 65 or 64 volumes, but I read all of that in February and March. The ratings varied from like 3 and 4 stars with an occasional 5-star if I like got all teary. Fairy Tale, I finally accomplished it. I can finally say that I've read the whole entire series, because like some of it was reread, some of it wasn't. The latter books weren't reread because they weren't published when I was in middle school. But that's pretty much everything that I've read in February and March. Stay fresh, and I'll catch you next time.